Ah,
Hey, Jim, how are you?
pretty good, Gail. How are you?
I'm good. And there's Steve and his beard.
Don't let me forget to say that your piece to the DTC is a masterpiece. It's a beauty. I just think we spent a lot of time on it. It turned out really well.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. We'll see what the lawyers think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they aren't quite as conscious of good literary, good writing, I think, as you know, as we are here. But we'll hope for the best.
How's everybody?
Uh,
Good.
Better than all my family in Texas.
well,
Oh, that's bad.
we
Yeah.
were lucky. We were lucky on the ice storm. It melted off before it could do any real damage, at least up here. Was it? I don't know if the ice was worse or not so bad down in the lower elevations, Frank.
There's a little bit of ice on our dirt road, but the trees are all fine. The branches are fine. There wasn't any buildup of any kind.
Um,
I mean, it's just ugly out there, but no, we didn't have any ice
Yeah.
accumulation.
Yeah, and the wind picked up very strongly last night. But I was glad that the ice had melted by then,
Yeah.
so we didn't have that combination that could really.
Yeah, it could have really tested our network more than we need to be tested, I think.
I think we were 5 degrees away from disaster.
Is that right?
Mm.
It was close.
Gail, I have a little, maybe later on if there's time, I've been looking into the cell tower issue and what's going on there. And I think it might be good to just talk a little bit about it. I've done some research.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to hear more. I heard at the meeting last night that it's
Mhm.
coming in June, and so yeah, that's a great idea. I'll add it to the end of things here.
Okay.
Anybody we are expecting or are not expecting?
Haven't heard from anybody. So I'll give it one more minute and then we will start because we do have quorum.
Hey, Gail, just as we're waiting, are there going to be, what's the election situation this year?
We are going to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
As town meeting is, we're,
Looming. It's looming.
it's looming, but it's still going to be in June. So
Yeah.
we have a little more
Okay.
leeway. And hopefully we'll have a beautiful day out behind town hall.
And if not, we all know how to sit in the rain. We know how to do that.
So that's the plan, is still an outdoor meeting?
Hmm.
It'll be a lot, I know many people will be vaccinated, but we'll still have a lot of, we're taking a low risk
Good.
stance.
Hello, Graham.
Yeah. Having trouble getting this thing to do a full view.
Must be the internet.
Must be. Oops. Looks like we just lost Graham. We'll wait for him to return, then we'll start.
Well, you never know about all that fiber on the other side of Lake Wyola. It's, pretty crazy over there.
Pretty dicey over there.
There he is.
Well, I've only got a little picture on the screen. I don't know why the view isn't. Ah, there we go.
You
Okay,
got it?
this is better. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, welcome everybody.
But we can't see you. I can't see you, Graham.
Yeah, I'll turn on my video too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, that all works.
Excellent. All right. So first order of business is approving the meeting minutes from January 20th that Jim sent around yesterday. I'd like to make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Next is the HUT report. Graham, what do you have for us?
Yeah, as Gail knows, I went along and tested the freeze over temperature alarm last week, and it went off okay. And Gail did. I got no email from them, but did you get anything from them? Or yeah, okay, yeah. So and,
Yep.
and Crocker, does Crocker now get that as well? Is that? Oh, good. Okay, yeah. And then, okay, yeah. Say anything there to that?
Yeah, so I met with Tim today and we went through the procedure for each type of alarm of what should happen. So the next step is that on their end, they will finalize the kind of electronic notification and make sure that their technicians know what to do in every scenario. And then next week, we'll run the test for real.
Burn the hut down.
That's right.
Okay. No holds barred.
Yep. So we'll need, I'll coordinate with you, Graham, timing for that. And it is going to be kind of a watched test where it'll happen, and we'll just make sure that everything happens in kind of the order that we need it to. So there's a couple of things for everyone to know. One is as soon as next week, the non-alarm entry protocol is going to be put in place. This means anytime you enter the hut, the phone will ring, and that's going to be Crocker calling. Even if you have,
that would be good.
yeah, right. Even if you disable the alarm, Crocker's still calling, and they're going to kind of keep a logbook of who's in there, why you're in. So really this applies to Graham, Jim, Steve, me, and Becky, if you ever need to get in there. So just answer the phone, tell them who you are. They know your name. It's on a special list, and why you're there. They'll write it down. And then we also have the video recording records going back, for a whole year if we ever need to like watch what somebody did in there.
Give it to the police. Yeah.
Yeah.
No secret handshakes.
No secret handshakes yet. We do have secret passwords, but no secret handshakes.
We can't show you the secret signal on the open meeting, Craig.
Right.
So-
Right. I'm very aware.
Will we need to know the secret password?
The only time you would need to know the secret password is if you panic and set off the alarm and just like you can't remember how to enter your code, and that's happened to me before. It's like that alarm is so loud and you kind of lose your brain a little bit. So that's the only time that you would actually need the secret password.
Well, Crocker, you might be able to talk your way around Crocker, but Simply Safe might not be able to be talked around because they probably just the contract requires them to send the police if you don't.
They should not be talked around it. I in fact, if anyone can't give the code, I want them to dispatch. So that's going to happen.
So you still got to know the secret word there, Steve.
Yep. For the temperature too high, too low, what's going to happen is an urgent email will go out to Steve, Jim, me, and Graham. And it just says basically, we've received a temperature warning. Please respond to this message if one of you can visit the hut. So our job is to respond all. If we're not doing anything, can run up to the hut and check out what's going on. If they don't hear from any of us in an hour, they'll dispatch. They'll go to the hut.
And I think I've said before that if a fire alarm goes off, someone's get dispatched by Simply Safe.
Right,
So
immediately.
if it's only a temperature alarm, then we can be very confident. Even as I tried to set off the Simply Safe temperature thing, the exhaust fan kicked in because the exhaust fan sensor was right next to where I was heating the thing. So it's very unlikely. We don't have to kill ourselves to get there because the exhaust fan is almost definitely working to cap it at a reasonable temperature. So.
Right. It's not a urgent emergency. So Graham, one thing I'd like to work with you on is putting together an emergency response sheet that we can tack up in the hut. It occurred to me that there should be some numbers right there for us: police, fire, Simply Safe, Crocker, like right on the wall there, as well as instructions for whoever's in there on what to do with the mini splits if there's a temperature problem.
Yep.
Check this, press this, do this, because I know I haven't touched those in a year, and if I'm the one who goes there, I'm like, I'm not quite sure how to fix this temperature issue. So whether it's us or Crocker, something like that. Same for the generator. I'll talk about it in a second, but if we should have a power outage and for whatever reason our generator doesn't kick in, that's also going to trigger something for Crocker to do. They'll go through a calling tree, calling each of us to see if anyone can respond. And again, if no one answers, they will go up there. They'll also call Pechoric because that means something.
Pechoric will have an email. An urgent email from Kohler because that one, and I don't know whether Gail you get the Kohler email, but anyhow that's there'll be emails from Kohler as soon as the power fails and the generator.
Right, and I should get that too, but I'll only get it if I'm sitting right in front of my email checking it.
Yeah, no,
So,
there's that.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll, on that emergency sheet, we'll also need just simple directions for somebody of, here's how you do a manual turn on of the generator. So Graham or
Doesn't
Jim, I
start
don't know.
automatically. If it doesn't start automatically,
Right,
probably not gonna, but we can try it. Yeah.
right. So Jim, are you familiar with that process of how to do a manual restart on the generator?
Yeah, well, the key's on the wall. I know that because you got
Yeah.
the key. You sent away for one, and it's pretty simple. There are just a few buttons to push once you take the case off the side of the generator.
Right. So would you be comfortable writing those up, Jim, and sending them to me? The how to do a manual restart?
Okay. Graham, you and I ought to coordinate.
We can go look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be press the start button and then you go inside and you got to flip the automatic transfer switch to see if you could flip it over. But
Right.
yeah.
Right. Make sure that the instructions are detailed enough that anybody could do them. You know, like really simple stuff like take this key right here and stick it here and do this. Yeah, Becky?
Yeah. We'll think about that. We might not want. We might not want. It might possibly be that we don't want just anyone to try and.
Yeah, that's my thought here.
Oh no, I'm not saying anyone should do it. I'm saying just that keep in mind that, for example, if I'm the one going up there, I've never taken off that panel. I have no idea what I'm doing. So, you know, just make sure that they're simple enough that someone in an emergency situation could follow the instructions and press the right buttons.
Yeah.
Someone with authorized access.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Becky. Oh, you're muted.
Becky, you're muted.
You're making me really nervous, Gail. There was conversation with Tim Pachurik. He responds when we've had a couple of situations and he's checked in. They haven't been problems. We had that one early on the first year that he walked me through. I think the plan to be going it without him is really awful and could jeopardize any, you could screw up the whole generator potentially and lose any of, the reason you're hiring him and have a contract with him.
And Becky, is he on call? Is he on call for the? Okay, yeah. So I think that really.
So avoiding him and going around him, I do not understand.
Yeah.
And
what's his contract for? Does he supposed to turn up in an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours? What's the? Do you
well,
remember?
he can do a lot remotely, and that's why I think, Gail, I don't think you'd end up in a situation. I think you make contact. He'll make contact with you if he has a point person, like he made contact with me the one time I did it. But I think it's really important to not undermine how you.
About this, Becky? How about this protocol, Becky? Is to call Pachurik and get him to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Because that I think he really understands the Kohler things and what doesn't work on the Kohler. It really is supposed to work automatically, and if it's not working automatically, then this is something fundamentally screwed up, and we're.
And if he's already engaged and trying to restart it remotely, and people show up and start doing other things, it can get problematic.
Yeah. So it'll be on that list of phone numbers you were suggesting, Gail. That it is, if power has failed and the generator is not running, call Pachurik straight away. He's already getting an email from Kohler, so
And he'll probably be reaching out. I don't know who's on your list for him to reach out to, but
that's a good point. Yeah,
I thought it was Graham.
he should phone Crocker is what he should do.
Yeah, Crocker and Graham, I believe, are on it. And then Crocker would follow up with you all.
Yeah.
But you guys should not be the first ones in line to respond.
Crocker is the 24/7 number that he Pachurik should be calling if he knows there's a generator.
Yeah, I mean, if Pachurik is talking to one of us and says, you know, gee, there's an ice storm, the trees are all down. If you can get there, I can walk you through what to do. That's a different scenario than us arriving, picking up a piece of paper, reading, oh, push this. I'd be wary of our.
No, but Becky's right.
Yeah.
Calling Pachara and talking to him.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is maybe it'd be good for us to get Crocker the caller email thing, because then they'll see the generator turns on every week. You know, no big deal. Three emails they can throw away, but they'll also see if they'll get a caller email if there is a power. If there is they'll actually get a useful email that'll tell them the generator has come on if the power has failed. And their system might not know that.
No, they're already hooked up through the UPS.
Okay,
So they're monitoring that part. So they will know
the
if there's a
UPS
power issue immediately
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. But as soon as the generator comes on, they won't know that they're running on emergency power anymore, because it'll look like their UPS has gone off, because you know the Kohler generator and the utility look the same to the UPS. It just so it'd be useful for Crocker to know the status from the email from Kohler that the generator is still running.
Right. I
Grant.
will make sure that they're getting the generator
Status.
emails too.
So no instruction sheet.
Yeah, I guess don't worry about it. I was initially thinking, that if the power's out and the generator isn't running, our whole network is down. It's a
Mhm.
big bad
we-
thing.
we have a problem.
But
We have a
but
problem.
Yeah.
but if we can rely on Tim for a fast response or him to direct us,
Okay.
then that's the right avenue.
Well,
to
we should
take.
definitely show up at the hut. I mean, that would be a really serious emergency in any case. So we ought to be there regardless of whether, of what's happening. And then we can try to communicate with Pachorik. Graham, question, how long will those UPS batteries last or keep things running?
It's different. His stuff. I don't know. I don't know what his. I don't remember what his criteria were. There's. We know that the whole thing pulls about 2 kilowatts, and you see about 4 rack units of UPS. So it can't be going to be holding it up for more than half an hour, maybe max, maybe less. It's really just to get you over power bumps.
Yeah, I know. I just curious to know how long those batteries might hold if something really, really awful happened.
That's not a lot of batteries, so. No.
Mm. Yeah. Mm.
All right. Anything else about the hut? That is all of the events.
Yeah, the hut was looking good when I was there the other day.
Gail,
Mm-hmm.
I did have one person interested in wanting to do murals all over the hut.
Nope. Hard no.
That's what I gave him. I just thought I'd double check.
Okay. Good.
I'm not sure how they were going to do it because the surface definitely is not conducive to me.
No, the fluting shape is very hard to paint.
No. No. I can't imagine any mural that would enhance the look of
It's
it.
just-
No.
I can think of a few that would definitely not. Like the ones you see in New York City. Mm.
Thank you.
Sure. Did I answer too quick on that?
No, no, you did not.
No, you could put it on the town meeting question.
Yeah.
Warrant article.
Warrant articles.
Yeah.
All right. Maintenance and service report, Graham?
Yeah, as the last month. They only had, oh, it was maybe 30 interactions, and there were hardly any. There was one open waiting for, so they did very well. There wasn't much going on last month from the point of view of their help desk. And I saw in the on the page for invoicing that they're still back at the end of August or something. According to that, I don't know whether that's up to date. Is Gail, is the invoicing on their repair stuff? Have they got past August yet?
They have not. They have a deadline of Friday. If they don't supply invoices by Friday, we will not be paying for any more repairs.
Right. Well, they're way behind, aren't they? Yeah. And I did, in looking up to the end of August, looking at what we saw, I could see that there were about 10 broken drops which got repaired, and the one the one thing that, as you look at a lot of the drops, they temporarily fixed them and then they went back and did a permanent fix. And I assume, or I hope, that was because they were waiting for parts, that they didn't have the material. But you can see that going out and doing a temporary fix is about $800, and then going out and doing the permanent fix is sometimes cheaper than the temporary fix, because it's just like the original installation. You know, you're just putting in the part, and the temporary fix, it's when we have the whole year's worth of stuff, and it looks like if you extrapolate on the year, that we will have about like a $50,000 repairs, and there's a little bit of installation mixed into that, isn't there? But looking at that, it looks like a $50,000 year for assuming that that the last 4 months doesn't have anything really bizarre beyond the Montague Road repair, which and the January Hills repair. So yeah, looks like maybe 50,000 total. So anyhow, yeah, I guess I did. I was talking to Collins last week, and they said that for $400 a month, that they would be very happy to be our on-call under the service contract, state service contract. So we could just nominate them $400 for their on-call thing. But the benefits of that are that they actually look at the as-built, and when they dispatch, they will tell the person who they're dispatching what the drop is, how many feet long, what it is. And also they update the as-built when splices get repaired and get added or modified. So maybe when we have all of the year's stuff, we should look at that again and think about whether there's a more cost-effective solution and more efficient, and so on and so forth.
Would this replace the $1,000 a month standby fee?
Well, Crocker's got their own 24/7. Oh, you mean what we pay to Crocker?
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah. Well, Crocker's also 24/7. So there's a service that they're doing as well. But
so this is an additional.
Yes, it would be. Well, somehow or other, here's what I think might happen, or what is plausible, and that is that Crocker is carrying something in their annual contract for their for the call out thing, and so maybe they would just figure that they're sick of this, all the effort that it takes to get an invoice from a third party like Certex or Triwire, that if for the added value of Collins just bills directly to Leverett, for instance, and they're totally totally able to do a proper invoice, very explicit, all according to the contract, everything easy to understand. They've got a good office, you know. This isn't rocket science to describe what one did and how much it's going to cost. So anyhow, we should think.
Grant, we currently have a contract with Crocker and to provide the maintenance and the service.
Yeah,
So
but that's
it seems
all out
like
of,
for the duration, now that contract, it was a 3-year contract. It seems like, well, when that's expiring, maybe we'll want to look into something different, but I guess I don't see us doing something different while we're still in the contract we are with Crocker.
right, but Crocker has got the repair as just a hand on from you know, I don't think they even have a markup on that, do they, Gail? They're supposed to just get the repairs.
Well, no, because our contract with Crocker specifies how much we pay.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter who, you know, we don't necessarily know what Tri-Wire is charging Crocker.
Yeah,
It
but it's
doesn't
time
matter
and
what
it's time and
Tri-Wire.
materials. But is it not all repairs are time and materials, basically? Is that not true?
Yes, but our contract specifies what the hourly rate is,
Right.
or you know, whether it's a drop or distribution, whether it's you know, business hours or after hours.
Yeah.
So
It's very possible that Crocker would be happy to plug. Well, let's see how Certex does, because that's who's doing us now. Is that?
so you're thinking of
No, is Certex? Is it back to Tri-Wire?
Certex is only taking care of new installations.
Okay. So is Tri-Wire still doing everything? Okay.
everything else, yeah.
Yep.
So Graham, were you thinking of like renegotiating our current contract with Crocker to say we'll take on?
If Tri-Wire can't perform, I think it's something we seriously should think about. Yeah.
Well, except Tri-Wire is performing the work just fine.
Exactly.
But they aren't able to handle the billing, but they're
That's
not
Crocker's problem.
billing to Crocker.
That's
Wait.
Crocker's problem. It's not our
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with this. Our contract is not with Tri-Wire. It is only with Crocker. Crocker can hire whoever they want.
Crocker has been paying Tri-Wire, have they? Oh,
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I thought maybe the Tri-Wire was running late on billing. Oh, all right. Well, that's great.
No, they are running very late on billing.
All right. Well, okay. So,
Yeah.
all right. So anyhow, somehow or other there is a problem.
Yeah. It's a Tri-Wire just has a back office that isn't very organized. You know, we saw this during the construction too, where you know, their billing and paperwork is terrible. By the way, Becky, I'm still trying to get the prevailing wage reports from them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It's been months. So anyway, but it is, at the end of the day, it's Crocker's problem. And I have reiterated again and again that their contract is at risk because they're not hiring a subcontractor that's meeting our needs.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Well, as long as they meet them and they don't charge us, I suppose, you know, we're actually.
I mean,
yeah,
if they want to do the work and don't bill Crocker, so Crocker doesn't bill us, well, let's.
Yeah. Okay.
But what we don't want to do is get a bill, you know, a year after the fact.
Yeah, you know, if they can reliably bill us a year after the fact, then we know our budget for the coming year.
Yes, but we don't
I'm
want.
joking. I'm joking.
Oh, okay. And we're actually legally limited. You know, we cannot pay a bill from the prior fiscal year without a town meeting approval.
That's a problem.
Now,
That's a
that
problem.
gets tricky because since it's Crocker that's billing us, the bill from Crocker has a current date on it. I guess technically we can pay that, except that if their bill shows that it's work from a year earlier, I don't know just what the gray area there is, but basically,
Yeah. The answer,
situation.
yeah, the answer here is to get out of the gray area
Yeah.
to make the billing current.
Yeah.
No, I would say no less than 30 days. They know that we're not happy with the way that things are going, and that
No more than 30.
And,
right.
and the bureaucracy has to allow a little of this. If there's a repair on June 20th, then
Sure.
clearly we're not going to get billed until the next fiscal year. Right? So
Yeah.
presumably there's a way to deal with that.
Yeah, well, if it's dated, am I muted? Now I have mute paranoia. No, if it's dated for, if it's dated at the end of the year, there's a rolling period where
Right.
you can process the bills, just so that the dates are within June 30.
Yeah, UMass
Otherwise,
has
you
this
have to
also.
go to a town meeting to get them paid. So you have to wait 9 months.
Mm.
Ugh, yeah. All right. Well, let's move into financial report.
Okay.
So Steve, you're up. Do you want me to pull up the spreadsheet?
Well, let me just give the current information first. Current balance, according to my calculations, is 178,094. And we have receivables from Crocker of 39,545 due this month, 39,766 due next month. These are bills I've actually submitted to them. So, there are monthly fee billings are holding steady in the $39,000 range. Upcoming expenses, as was mentioned, we do have about $4,500 worth of bills now actually received from Crocker for the maintenance work through last August, and expecting more to come.
So that's
And-
4,500.
Yes.
Yeah,
But that's
small.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we will have the debt payment due in April. It's, I believe, 105,000.
Hmm.
That'll knock the current balance down. And we are working on the FY22 budget. So Gail does. I think Gail sent a spreadsheet around with that, and Gail, you want to bring it up? You want to talk?
Sure. All right, that's nice and big so everyone can see it. I'll start on just the regular draft. Steve has highlighted any big changes, so I'll just, Steve, do you want to just go through line by line and talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change is in the maintenance budget, which of course is the difficult one to do, as we've discussed at great length. But it's just that 108,000 we had in last year, it just seems like we're not going to run that. I believe we got that figure from Leverett, and so I'm just, said, well, let's try 60,000. That still seems like plenty of, you know, still seems like a very good, good budget there.
And so to date in FY21, we have how much in actual maintenance?
I was afraid somebody would ask.
Approximately, ballpark.
I added it up. It's running according to the thing they sent us this month. Crocker had billing for $39,000 roughly. No, $18,000 billed.
Those are
I
two
think
different ballparks.
$18,000 billed,
Yeah.
and so I extrapolated for the year, and it made it look like maybe 45,000 maximum, knowing that some of the things at the end are chunky. The road repairs that we know about on Montague Road and January Hills Road. So yeah, 60,000 comfortable.
Good.
But we don't really have real figures on those expensive repairs yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we do have through
January
August.
Hills shouldn't have been that expensive. It's basically
No, it
just
shouldn't have been much at all.
It's just rehanging the wire.
No.
And
Jim and I did it for about nothing.
That's right. That's right.
There was no splicing or anything. So
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we have the bills through August, which included the windstorms in May and in August, the tropic storm in August. So now, of course, the other thing is we still have we still have 4.5 months left of this year. So
we do.
Right. Although since December, well, I guess it's only 2 months, but we have had no dispatches.
That's good.
Either for drops or mainline repairs. For
No,
the
there is
this whole
still
winter.
potential for ice storms though before
Yeah.
we
Yes. Yeah, we're definitely not out of the
I would
woods.
say.
and that's that number is just going to be so volatile every year.
Yep. It's always going to be our biggest variable to plan for.
Yep.
Steve, do you want to keep talking about the line items here?
okay, the employment overhead, which we budgeted $4,000 last year, it was apparently based on the understanding that the manager's stipend included health care, which was understandable because the previous time we had that in there, it did. So it does not. And I've been working with Ryan on this, and the only two things we've got are Medicare and workers' comp. The Medicare, we know the exact figure on it. The workers' comp don't have an exact figure, but I threw in 1% there just as a placeholder at this point.
Steve?
Yeah.
I think there's also going to be retirement added to that.
Okay, if you could look into that.
We don't get, the town employees don't have Social Security taken out. So they have a separate retirement program, just like state employees. And that needs to be calculated in there too.
Okay, but Gail,
Through an assessment at the end of the year. It's not coming out of the paycheck.
okay. Gail, are you part of the Franklin County? Is it being deducted for the Franklin County retirement system for you, or for the deferred compensation? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll
Can you
talk
scroll a
just-
little farther?
Yeah, before we go there, I'm just going to talk about this one, Steve.
Yeah.
So this lifeline, Westfield has done no movement on this. So Um, we'll see if they make any progress over this next year. But we still need to keep the budget item in there for it.
Okay. The rest of this is either fixed or relatively inexpensive. So, I mean, up until
well, until we continue
line
to-
19, up until 19, yes, up until
Yeah.
the debt.
And the debt service here, 2 of the items are required, we are not optional for us. Yeah. Excuse me, the payment on the 10-year note that comes due each April, and the interest on the ban that comes due in August. So then the optional item is how much we put towards the principal of the ban in August. And so in this tab, this tab is with making no change in our monthly subscriber fee, putting $130,000 towards the ban. And then when you get down to the other highlighted item, the extraordinary and unforeseen or the emergency reserve fund, what that is that's the leftover between the amount we take in subscriber fees minus all of the expenses. Last year we had the budget had a $42,000 excess. I just see that as more than is needed. So I've dropped that down to 22,000.
Yeah, for us, really, this is like a secret maintenance reserve fund, right?
Right,
Well, not really a
sure.
secret, but I can't really anticipate that there's going to be a lot of any large expenses that we would incur for this besides maintenance.
Yep.
I guess a piece of expensive equipment could break in the hut, and we might have to repair that, but yeah, it's not. I think that would, I think our most expensive piece of hut equipment is like $4,000. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so that should be able to come out of the regular maintenance budget.
Right.
The one thing we've tapped that for so far this year was the Calix Lifeline fee came in higher than we budgeted. So we
Right, this one right here.
Calix Essential Support, yeah. We'd budgeted $59.95, bill came in at $75.95. So that difference had to come out of something. So Gail Weiss just took it out of the that reserve fund. So it's good to have a little something there to cover that. But we don't need 42,000 in that. The other thing to remember about a reserve is at the end of the fiscal year, all of any excess funds we have go into the retained earnings account, which is kind of a limbo that it sits in until the following year's annual town meeting can be appropriated for a purpose. And our plan is to appropriate it towards paying down the ban debt. But if in fact something happened that we really needed that money for something else, we could ask the select board to call a special town meeting, and in 2 weeks we could have a special town meeting that could appropriate some of those funds towards something we actually needed it for. So that's a whole separate little reserve that is not available to us immediately, but it's not tied up really long term.
Steve, how much do we have sitting in the retained earnings for last year? And where is it? Or how we spent it or what?
No, we're planning on it's appropriating that towards the paying down of the ban in August. It's
Uh-huh.
Gail, do you have that other?
There's a lot of money, as I regret.
Yeah.
No, I don't have it at my fingertips. It would take me a little bit to look it up.
Okay, if I can figure out how to reduce, to get back into another program on my computer, because let's see, view, how about?
Yeah,
Exit
click view
full
in the, yep, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, 20. Yeah, 123,544 was FY, it was the retained earnings from last year, last fiscal year 20.
123. So that would be combined perhaps with 130,000 to reduce the principal. This
Right, and
Got it.
If we go with this, now we have another budget with reducing the subscriber fee, in which it would be a lower amount would go towards the debt. So, Gail, do you want to switch to the other tab and show the other option here?
Yep, we're on it.
Oh, okay, so we are. So this is a alternative budget in which we reduce our subscriber fee from $52 a month to $47 a month, which reduces our revenue. And the two things that change on the expense side with that is, instead of putting 130,000 towards the ban in August, the principal on it, we put 87,000 towards that. And then the emergency reserve fund is in the same ballpark, but it's 20,000 instead of 22,000. Otherwise, I left all the expenses the same.
So the way I see it is the question we're really asking is, do we want to slow down our ban payment and pay less towards that and reduce subscriber fees or not?
And what I'll just add from this, when I bring this up, does everybody see this now?
Yeah.
Okay. This spreadsheet shows the amount due on the current balance of principal balance of the ban is 406,870. The lower part of it here, it shows how we could come
Steve,
up.
we're not seeing your spreadsheet.
Oh. Okay.
Let me stop sharing.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different spreadsheet. There you go. All right, you should be able to take over now.
Okay, so the current principal on the ban is 406,870.
I
I'm
don't,
still not.
Oh,
we're
we still
not
don't see
seeing
it. Sorry.
yeah, nothing.
At the bottom of your screen, there's a green up arrow that says share screen. It's at the bottom of the Zoom window.
The window with all our pictures,
Hmm,
depending on how you have it set.
I'm not. Share. Oh, okay.
There we go. Now you're heading in the right direction.
Okay. Oh. Okay. I'll be
We're
careful.
still waiting, but
There it is.
There you go.
Done.
Okay. Up. Please move this window away.
I don't think you have to do it, Steve. We can see it.
Okay, but
Yeah.
my screen keeps going
Oh,
blank. Anyway, okay, from the top. We owe the current balance of the ban, 406,870, due on August 20th of 2021. Either has to be paid or renewed. And so I've got a plan here where we could pay down 236,000 of that, which that comes from the lower part of the spreadsheet, funding sources. That 123,544 retained earnings is just sitting there. Town meeting needs to vote it. It's very straightforward. 25,500, the final MBI grant money, which the select board has already okayed that going towards it. And then taking $87,000 in our putting $87,000 into our FY22 budget towards debt, towards the reduction of that debt, which would be the figure I'm saying that's the figure we get with the $5 monthly fee reduction. Comes to 236,000. We do that, it leaves a balance on that ban of 170,000. I'm projecting that a year from next August, so in August of 2022, if the ban is rolled over for 1 year in August at that rate of 170,000, that we could pay off that 170,000 or come very close to doing it in a year by appropriating another 87,000 in the FY23 budget. That would leave about 83,000 left. And I'm projecting that our retained earnings for the current fiscal year will be about $83,000. Again, it all depends on where the maintenance, what we spend for maintenance in now and June. But I went through the budget without knowing I needed to reach 83,000 and just said, okay, we're going to spend all of this line item, but we're not going to spend all of this one. We'll probably spend so much. And I came up with about 83,000 left over. And then I looked, well, that's about what we need. So I'm fairly comfortable that by reducing our subscriber fee by $5 a month, starting in July of this year, that we can still pay off that ban in 2 years. Or as I say, or come very close, say there's $10,000, $1,000 left. Well,
That's what this is.
at the next year. And there's no way we can pay it off this year.
Sure. So all of this is assuming that we reduce by $5 a month our subscriber fees.
This spreadsheet that's up right now,
Yeah.
based on that, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Just for curiosity, what are we paying for interest for the bands? What are we paying for those?
It's extremely low,
Very,
zero,
very
0.95%.
it's crazy
Yeah.
low.
That is pretty low.
Yeah, I mean it's another wild card. Those that could go up, but I don't think we're going to see it go up wildly.
Right.
But I don't think we're going to see it go much lower.
No,
know,
it's I
It
think it's
costs
gonna go
them that
lower.
much money to
Yeah.
just process the paperwork of it. It's like our payment is, the interest payment to the bank is going to be $3,800 in August for a year's worth of interest. So it's, to me, a reason I like the idea of seeing if we can get this paid off is let's pay it off while the interest rates are so low, because they might go up, and it'd be good to get rid of as much of this as we could while the rates are so low.
Right.
Well, the counter argument is, well, the interest rates are so low, you might as well have the money because you're not paying for it. If if you take any
Yeah.
chance to get rid of it, that's what I'm saying.
But the other argument is we're going to be talking a bit about potential competition down the road.
Yeah.
And so this
Right.
will allow us, this would allow us to reduce our rates still further, not this year, but in some subsequent year.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I like that.
That is good strategically, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, you make a good point that being able to lower it when we had to, if we
Right.
had,
Right.
is very
Yeah.
useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah, I would see
don't
this
need-
$5 hopefully as a first step on fee reduction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if everything continues to go well and we get this debt paid down in a couple of years, that we could have a further fee reduction.
So by my estimation, once our debt obligation is done completely, we can drop our rates by what, $25 a month?
Yeah, but the
That's going to be 9 years from
loan
now.
is a
I know, I
10-year.
understand that. I understand
Okay.
it's,
And at that
And the
point,
maintenance will go up, I
likely.
would assume.
Not very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
we're carrying a retainer for equipment. So.
Good
And,
point. No, that's true.
we're putting $37,000 aside every year into the broadband stabilization fund towards the replacement of the electronics.
Yep.
So, that's included in this budget, is we're socking that money away.
Yes, we're in good shape.
But it's, maintenance of the outside plant that, as it ages.
It doesn't. Not much happens to it. Trees are the maintenance issue. Trees
Yeah.
hit it and
Yeah.
it breaks. It's good for 40, 50 years. Otherwise,
I agree.
Look how long Verizon has had that copper wire.
I know, yeah.
Well, we don't want to use that analogy.
I just had a question on the Crocker contract. The 3 years is up next year.
Correct.
So next year you're going to be going potentially, either you'll negotiate, you'll go out to bid, I assume, or
Sure.
so when you go out to bid, it just seems like that would be, it would, waiting until after where that's coming in might be helpful, just because once you go down, you can't go back up again very
Yeah.
easily.
So you're raising the idea that when we go out to bid, we might get bids that are $5 a month more expensive on the ISP side.
Mhm.
They could be. I think
Yeah.
they raised their rates on Leverett the first year.
Yeah. No, that's a real concern.
That's a good point.
Good point. Yeah.
But the other side is all the more reason for us to lower our.
Yeah,
No.
but not do it
No.
until we know.
No, because all the customer cares about is the bottom amount they
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah. So don't do it until you know. Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
So if we kept our fees as they are for the next coming year, we could presumably pay the debt down even farther.
Yes.
Yeah, we won't pay it off completely any quicker,
No,
but we can.
we'll get further along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would agree with both Craig and Becky on this one, that we ought to wait and not lower the fees for this upcoming fiscal year. But, put the extra cash, whatever it is, towards reducing the debt, just getting rid of that expense as soon as we can. I just feel strongly that that's probably the best way, or that is the best way to go, and just and wait until those two reasons, what Becky had to say and what Craig had to say, I think are really important. So I would not offer to lower the rates this coming fiscal year, and I don't think anybody's expecting it either. This is a brand new. This is still a very young enterprise, and a lot of things can happen repair wise, one thing or another. They're just it would be good just to postpone that for at least another year.
I mean, it's also true that not raising the rates is not as good as lowering them, obviously, but
Yeah,
I mean, when, you know, people aren't used to things being not the same every year.
And I
I-
think Gail, at the all boards meeting, I think you did kind of outline a scenario of your top priority being to pay off the debt and then consider lowering rates afterwards. So you've set expectations that are easy to live with.
Yeah, yeah, I was careful to say, not tell anyone that we're, right now exploring lowering rates.
Yeah.
And yeah, I after this conversation, I agree. I think we should keep things the way that they are and revisit this next year when we know who our ISP is going to be, know how much it's going to cost, and be in a even better position with our debt.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yep. Everyone good?
What's
Yeah,
the time
makes
frame for,
sense.
We're not
What's the
really
time-
much different position with that, but either
What-
way, we're looking at paying off the debt in that paying off the ban in August of 2022.
what's the time frame for going out to bid and getting our final decision made next year?
Crocker's contract kicked in on July 1st, 2019. So their termination would be July 1st, 2022. So I'd like to have us maybe go out to bid in January, February next year and have a contract signed by, I don't know, April. I'd welcome advice on this of how long this sort of thing typically takes. But we should know who our ISP is, I would say at least 2 full months before Crocker's contract expires.
Or maybe more important is we need to know it before town meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
And we might have a normal date for town meeting. It might be back to the end of April in 22.
Yep.
I would even consider going out in September.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Well, that's when we were doing the initial ISP contract, was in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, that was, of course, for a startup of something, and Crocker worked closely on the completion of the construction, having won the bid. We've got a network that's up and running now, may not be as complicated for a new ISP to come in, but
Yeah.
It just gives you extra room in case you end up in a situation where you're looking at a different provider and
yeah.
have a lot to figure out. It's better to have extra room than coming in too tight.
Great.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when you consider someone bidding, they'd rather, if they have to hire new people, they like to, they need planning time themselves, don't they? So, so yeah, knowing that they're going to get a new contract in a few months' time, 3-4 months' time is better than knowing that it's next month or yeah. So doing it early is a good idea.
All right. So what should be our target date to say get the bids out?
I'd say get it out by October 1st. I mean, because you've
Okay.
got work going into it ahead of time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, they'd have like, what, 30 days to respond?
Yeah.
So someone knows.
Gail, does your day job get really bad in the beginning of September?
September's the worst.
I know I'm aware. That's why
It's
I'm
the
bringing
worst.
it up.
How about we we make it like what if we made it going out on November 1st?
Okay, great.
Okay.
think that's reasonable.
So that in December, we would be reviewing bids.
Right, so I'd say that we get it out like November 1st, have it due around December 1st, full month later, and then we have all of December, part of January to noodle over it and make the announcement in January.
Okay. Yep.
That sounds good.
All right, I'm just making a note of this for next year on my massive to-do list, which never gets any shorter. Do on.
So if I understand, we're leaning towards keeping our fee structure to the customer as is, right?
Correct.
I'm fine with that. It's conceivable, although unlikely, that some fee fiscal curmudgeon is going to try to tell us we should lower our rates. So we need to have our arguments ready for that.
Yep, and our arguments are going to be that with unknown interest rates, we want to get the ban paid off as soon as possible, and we have to go out to bid for a new network operator and ISP within the next, if someone asks this at town meeting, we're like within 9 months. So we don't.
Yeah, I would argue the ISP thing, and I would argue that we still this might have been a particularly good maintenance year. We just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, I wouldn't overemphasize paying down the ban because, somebody might argue that why should I have to pay down the ban for somebody 5 years from now? Why, whatever.
Yeah, I think that the ISP reason is our strongest reason for this. We don't want to lower rates and then raise them again. That's just not okay. So
yeah, on the ban issue, I would still advocate for the $5 reduction, because either way, we can essentially pay it off on the same date. And I see advantages to offering a lower rate, but I do think, okay, if we do want to tie it all into the new ISP, not knowing what that's going to be, might even tweak our figure to make it our MLP fee to make it work well with whatever the ISP figure is.
right, our goal is to.
I'm not 100% convinced we should not reduce the fee, but I'm okay with holding it.
I'm in a similar boat.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can all noodle on it and bring it up again next month if anyone has more thoughts on it.
I think the idea of tying rate reductions to our next ISP negotiation is a reasonable one. I mean, it's
Totally.
independent of everything else.
Yep.
Well, there's also the notion of splitting the difference. I mean, you could go $2, not $5, or whatever. You know what I mean? Well, seriously, that's a reduction. Is a reduction.
Eric, I'm laughing because initially I proposed I wrote up a potential budget with a $2 reduction. And then I said, well, let's try it with 5. And I had the tabs on the Excel spreadsheet labeled as the $2 draft and the $5 draft. And I sent it to Gail, and there was some talk. Maybe I was talking about a cheap beer or an expensive.
Yeah, right. I was going to say $2 draft. The AC's closed. Yeah, but you know what I mean. I think we could split the difference. I mean, you could have it both ways. You could lower it and say we're conservatively lowering the rates, and because we want to keep our powder dry, and here's why. And that's totally logical. But at the same time, we're lowering the rates because we can lower them some. We could say that.
We could.
Yeah, our MLP fee is $52 right now. So we could lower it to an even 50.
The customer doesn't care about that. They just care about the 75
yeah,
versus 73.
Yeah,
they don't care about the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I really think if we keep it the same, that's almost, for people going to look at, people all subscribing to Netflix and YouTube TV and all that stuff. That stuff doesn't stay the same every year. You know, they're
That's all
well
going
aware
up.
of the fact. Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So they're well
Yeah.
aware that if we stay the same, we're actually, we're in good shape, I think.
Mhm.
Okay, I vote for keeping it the same again.
I'm fine with that.
And so do I.
I do too. Can I vote?
Yep.
Both ways. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I'll vote twice.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning towards keeping it the same too. From a just like a business perspective, also our price point is right, where we know that we're beating out other competitors. Not that there is, but we're already saving families a lot of money by offering
We
this
are.
service. And yes, it would be lovely to offer them more, but a $2 a year difference is not gonna make a big difference. But when we can do $5, $7, $10, then that's going to be a really nice big impact in a couple of years, or even next
Yep.
year, or even
Yep.
next year.
Yep.
It seems to me that Leverett dropped their price when they made the change from Crocker to OTT. Wasn't that the point at which their fees dropped as well? I
I
mean,
think it did, yeah.
it was at least 2 to 3 years after Leverett Net started up. So we're sort of following roughly the same pattern.
Yep. Yeah, they did. They lowered their price a little when they
Yeah.
got up. They did.
All right. So does everyone feel all right about leaving things as they are for one more year? And we
Yep.
will revisit this next year at the same time.
Yep.
We good?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Steady as she goes.
Great. All right, moving on. Couple of other things. So the surety bond response has been returned. Special thanks to Jim and Graham and Steve for helping me. We did quite a few iterations
Did we ever?
of the letter. But the end result was
A masterpiece.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Oh,
but
it was very good, Gail. It was
Yeah,
excellent.
it was focused. It was very
Yeah, it was
focused.
very focused.
We cut out all of the fluff arguments and had just our strongest ones. So we'll see. It's 180 days before either they're going to give us a ruling or somewhere in there they're going to schedule a hearing. So we're just in the waiting stage now. Let's see. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about last meeting. We brought up the idea of security and the idea of adding a little bit more oversight to Crocker for what kind of security services they have. This was as a result of the SolarWinds issues that some other big companies were having. So I asked Holyoke Gas and Electric if they would be willing to act as kind of a security auditor for us, because we don't, as in our team, have that kind of expertise. They very graciously declined. They said they don't want to set a precedent of working against potential competitors in that way. They can't handle the liability, and they don't feel like they can afford to hire out their staff to do that kind of thing. So all fine. Jim Crowley did give me the name of 3 other local security firms that could do that kind of work for them. I haven't contacted them or anything. I want to speak to all of you first. It's kind of it's not really a full security audit that we're looking for here. We're looking for more of somebody who knows security to just ask some questions of Crocker and make sure they're following industry best practices, because none of us really know what that is. Just basically get another pair of eyes on it. Kent asked his son, who works in some kind of internet security field, and there's something called a SIG standardized form. It stands for Standardized Information Gathering, and it's a kind of a repository of third-party information and security and privacy questions. They cost thousands of dollars. They're indexed to multiple regulations and different control frameworks. They're huge. They're like 300 different questions. My sense is that they're used more for like banks and healthcare industries. And Crocker, when I asked Crocker, can you just look into this? Do you know what this is? They said the same thing. Like, this is way overkill for what you want. They're very open to doing any kind of audit we want, but I don't want them to waste their time, and I don't want to get back something that I don't want to wade through 300 questions that I don't understand either.
Yep.
So, so I see a couple of directions we could take. I could contact these 3 security firms and just give them a rundown of kind of who we are and what we're looking for. Of somebody like, could you spend, a day or half a day putting together a small security audit and having a conversation with Crocker to make sure they're following industry best practices. The other thing I could see doing is seeing maybe if Kent's son could help us out by saying, just give us a list of the 20 questions that we should be considering when it comes to security, have Crocker answer them. And then if Kent's son is willing, just look at them and say, here's, the ones that look good. Here's the potential holes that I see. I guess it really depends. How much money do we want to spend on this? How much time do we want to spend on this? And how kind of professional do we want it to be? Or do we just want another pair of eyes on it? Thoughts?
I have a question, Graham. Do you know anybody at UMass in this area who might want to freelance?
It's always really, really hard to tell who in security, in the IT security section, knows anything, because they all talk mumbo jumbo, and you can't really tell much anyhow, and they won't tell you much because vulnerabilities and their own self. But it did occur to me that I'd be happy to reach out to the 3 names in Calyx that because they should understand. Calyx should understand exactly what security their equipment best needs, and also they should understand where some network operators have screwed up. They might give some useful insight on just because we have a particular sort of situation. Like you say, we're not a bank, and Crocker's not a bank. It's not a financial thing, we have to depend on those third parties to do all those things that they have to do. We're not a medical thing, they're not, Crocker's not a med. So anyhow, how about that, Gail? I'll ask the Calyx people what they would, whether they have any particular angle on that.
So the Calyx people are not the people that HG&E recommended.
Right, but they should understand. They should understand what the issues might be, I would think.
Yeah, but would they though? Is there? I think of them as more like hardware providers, and this is a combination of both hardware and various software.
Yeah, but somehow or other, their stuff has to run in there without getting hacked and without, I don't know. It seems like they might have some insight. So I would ask them. I don't think there's much point going to UMass because of all sorts of.
That's fine. That's fine. It just occurred to me that if I had the expertise and I was approached on this, I would ask myself, how much time is it going to take me? But I'd also ask, what kind of liability am I putting myself in, right? If I say, yeah, your system checks out, and then next week you're hacked by the Ukrainian whatever, you might come back and sue me for not having ask the right questions.
Your contract, Craig, your contract will have been written by your lawyer that will guarantee to us that.
Understood. So these three companies that HG&E is recommending will presumably have already thought about this and
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But somebody off the street, I don't know. I would tell you as a chemist, when people ask me for chemistry questions, I just say, I'm sorry, I can't help you, because I just don't want to get tied up in something that I don't know what might happen later down the road.
Yep.
It's sad, it's unfortunate, but
Yeah. Becky?
A couple months ago, Grace, the town clerk, was and I were talking. She said there had been somebody reaching out about internet security issues and whether we wanted an audit or not at the town level. I'm gonna reach out to her and talk to her more and get the contact information and see if it's similar to what you're looking for. But it was through the the state IT department, and
oh, okay.
That'd be great.
If it's a state IT, if it was just somebody cold calling her, I would say forget it.
no, it's they were contacting her as a municipal officials,
Gotcha.
and
Yeah, that sounds a good idea.
That sounds like it could be great.
Yeah.
okay, so I'll ask. I've started to email her now, but I'll follow up on that and see if we get anything.
Great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Moving on. Quick item about governance. My term and Steve's terms expire this year on the MLP board, where both of us are expiring. And what I'd like to suggest is that I actually leave the board and stay on as a manager, and that Steve runs again and Graham runs, so that the elected board would be Jim. He's still on it. And then Steve and Graham get elected as the new members of the board. I think having this, separation between the board versus manager, the board being the kind of the decision-making body, and then the manager being the day-to-day executor of the tasks, it's just a better model. And I did get like special dispensation to be on this board. So just as an ethical thing, I think it's better. And also it just gives more flexibility. I'm good now. I'm having a good time. This is all fine. But if I want to go, leave in somewhere in 2 years, I don't want to leave you both without a board member and without a manager. So those
Except
are
for that last statement, I think everything's fine.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. I've already spoken to Graham and Steve, and they're both willing to run again.
I think that's great.
Good. So Becky, when does that election paperwork have to be in, knowing that our town meeting is in June?
I think it's April. I don't have a date yet, but I think it'll be in the town newsletter.
And
Becky, I assume the forms are online, are they? One can go to the town hall webpage and find application forms for.
I don't know if they're there yet.
Okay. Yeah, well, yeah. But
And currently, Gail and I held the 3-year terms. So I don't know, will these be 2 3-year terms, or will it be staggered? Do we need to look at a calendar to?
I think normally it would stay what it is. The 3-year term would go to the new person, and Gail's would go to Graham, and yours would stay another 3-year term. But if you, for some reason, wanted 2 years, you guys could.
I'm fine with staying another 3-year term. I just didn't know if we because this tied in with the reducing the board size from 5 members to 3 members. So, Jim, how long is your term? Do you know?
End of 22. July 22.
So that's next year.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be
Now-
my third year.
So we could do a 2 and a 3 with his 1, and then we'd be on a 1 every year.
We could, but it might not be a big enough problem to even bother, right?
That's fine with me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with keeping it,
Yeah.
but if there was a need to deal with that, we could. So
Yeah.
anyway, we can think about that in the next month or 2.
Yeah. Think about it. I'll bring it up again so that we can get all the paperwork in that you need by April.
Very good.
Do we need nomination papers running for reelection?
Yeah.
How do we get nominate? How do we need in-person signatures, or can that be done
Yeah, that's a good question.
virtually? Or?
Got to have signatures. You could do 10 sheets.
We have to do real signatures. But there might be a new alternative I don't know about yet. So we'll
Okay.
look for that.
Whatever. Just
Yeah. We need a fireman's breakfast outdoors.
Right.
Yeah, it's only like 10 signatures, right? That's needed.
It's 20.
Okay.
I mean, we can do. That's not a problem. I can get
Yeah.
to 10 probably.
Maybe 25, but
I can get you 10.
Oh,
Yep, and one thing that we could do too is during during our next meeting, we could make it a point to all meet outside at the town hall, and that's almost 10 signatures right there. All right.
looks like the phone is in the wheat field there behind you, Craig.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, last order of business is Jim, you had some things you wanted to relay to us about the upcoming cell tower.
Yes, I looked into this matter a little bit because, well, Craig is the one who mentioned potential future competition and all of that. And this is something we need to be aware of. The tower is being put up by a company called Vertex. And they, through some negotiations with the town, they've gotten the permit to do it. I think you've all heard about this at the meeting last night. And FirstNet is going to be the initial company that sort of signs out. That this is an AT&T company, and FirstNet is just historically their money comes from the 2012 act that took place after the crisis, the economic crisis of 2008, when there was a lot of money sort of thrown around for all sorts of things. But I guess the FirstNet is devoted to the term first responders. And it's a first responder network, one thing or another. So and apparently some $7 to $8 billion were appropriated by the U.S. government to pay for this. And there's a whole network of towers all over the country, and now there will be one in Shutesbury. The tower itself, this is what I found sort of curious. The tower itself has 6 additional potential positions for other users, which could be Verizon, who knows, T-Mobile, we don't know. But in other words, this isn't just reserved for just FirstNet. It could go, it could be loaded up with, with other services as well, that might begin to affect how Shutesbury folks connect to the World Wide Web. It's hard to know, or we can only guess at this time what might happen, but it's, there's, I'm reminded of the old folklore story about a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is some coming in through the back door. It's going to go up, and we don't know quite what the future consequences are, which is one of the reasons why I was, I think we need to sort of be careful about all of the discussion that we just had about debt and lowering the rates and everything else, because this is something that's sort of on the horizon, and we just don't know where it's going to move or where it's going to go. And but it's an entry point. It's an entry point for all kinds of services that could happen, and companies that could come in. Personally, I really doubt in the short term whether Verizon or any of the big players are going to come in and start offering cell services and high-speed data and God knows what else. But this is a 700 megahertz service that's coming off of this tower, which comes from the UHF TV band. The FCC, I don't know if anybody is aware of this, but the FCC carved it all, carved up the UHF band and gave a lot of it to services just like this. And so 700 megahertz is pretty low frequency, and that service will be able to go through walls and everything else. In other words, it's a low enough frequency so that it should be very, very effective. I talked to Walter Tibbetts at some
way, the frequency you're just talking about, that's the feed to the tower, no?
Well, that's what the service operates on.
But that's the first responder service. The service to the customer for internet is not going to be that.
Oh, right? No, they'll be completely different, whatever it turns out to be. But this is, curiously enough, if you have anybody here have an iPhone 11, because that will respond to that frequency and you'll be able to tune in, I guess. Although I think it's going to be the security service that's going to go out over 700 megahertz will be on a VPN. So I don't know if that'll be that effective, but
they're not going to offer that to customers.
Yeah, I took a look at this FirstNet thing, and boy, it's all about money. Most of the presentation had to do with all this equipment they wanted to sell and to provide, mostly to sell, and the service itself is in the $70 to $80 a month range for a small outfit. Anyway, well, Walter Tibbetts is not interested. He says the town won't be interested for a number of years to come. But nevertheless, that tower is going in, and there's plenty of place for other things to go off of that tower. So it's just something to sort of watch out of the corner of our eye.
Yeah. So I do have a question about this. Is this an opportunity for us in the future to do some dark fiber leasing?
I would think so. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Gail, because I was thinking whatever goes in there, we ought to make sure we have a fee structure that we can really, get some serious money from whoever is going to be using that tower, as opposed to what, normal people in everyone else in Shutesbury is paying for. We ought to be able to get some serious money for whatever the requirements are. And I don't know what they are right now, because that's really a little bit off in the future. But it's going to be coming up quickly.
We don't want to provide service to them for $52 a month.
Absolutely not. No.
I'll just add here that I am not concerned about, at this point, about serious competition from the big cell phone provider in Shutesbury, because in the range of about 10 years ago, AT&T came in and built a 198-foot tower off Buffum Road in Pelham. It's within a mile of the Shutesbury line. I like Sarah Palin, I can almost see it from my house. We saw it the day it was built. We were amazed, what is this thing? I happened to meet the property owner in Pelham when I was hiking, and he said AT&T had come to him. The engineers knew where they wanted to site a tower. Gung-ho, they built this thing. AT&T sunk a lot of money into this tower. They had to bring in underground power lines, rebuild a dirt road. and then AT&T dropped the ball. They or anybody else has never put an antenna on the tower, and it sat there all this time. They brought in underground power lines. The transformer has 4-meter boxes on it, so it's clearly it was set up to take multiple service providers up there. Nobody's ever used it. When I was still working in Leverett, and there was Verizon was considering putting in a cell tower in Leverett, and this is before we were anywhere near building our network. I talked to one of the lawyers from Verizon and said, well, you know, you got a tower right there in Pelham. You could go in on that because it would have provided excellent service to me. He thanked me. I gave him pictures of it and the FCC number on the tower. You know, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, none of them have done anything with it. And it's sitting right. AT&T gave up the lease and turned it over to American Tower.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a tower on Pulpit Hill that I think is still in the same boat. It's a spec. As far as I know, there's nothing on it. You know, the cell providers, they're putting all their investment right now in 5G, and 5G is not coming to Shutesbury. So I'm not particularly worried either, but I'm conservative and I want to be worried just in case.
Yeah.
But Gail, you made a good point with we can sell dark fiber all the way down to Crown Castle to them.
Probably not. The lesson that MBI learned was that these people want to be on their own hardware.
On their own hardware, but they need fiber connection to Crown Castle.
MBI thought they were going to sell all this bandwidth to the other cable companies and whatnot, and nobody wants it.
Right, but when you think about our dark fiber is going by their location.
Understood.
Yeah, right, and that they'd have to install. They'd have to do make ready on poles and run fiber from somewhere. Yeah, I mean that would be to get dark fiber there themselves. It could be a lot of money. But,
Yeah, well, unless it's Verizon, right? Because they can just overbuild on what they already have. They already own the poles. You know, they can lash to the the
Exactly.
old the old copper stuff. So I think that they're a real competitor there.
Yeah, but they still have to. If there was some other party, I don't know whether Verizon would. Maybe Verizon would sell them dark fiber too. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just keep an eye on it. If we hear of anybody being interested in this tower, let's make sure that we approach them because it could be a revenue source. If they're, let's say that their model is no, we always build our own hardware, we always do our own thing, but we say, wait a minute, we can save you a lot of money here, and then that income comes to us instead on a monthly ongoing basis. That would be a better deal.
But
So
remember,
is the FirstNet that's going to be occupying this tower?
yes.
How are they getting to the outside world?
Well, that's an unknown. I don't have an answer for that, and I don't think anybody else does either. But remember that this is a lot of government money is behind this, and security and government security stuff as well. And so the chances of us being able to get in on it and it might be rather slim because they may want to go to Crown Castle, just like you've said.
Or my guess is they might have hardware to hop to another tower and then another tower. And do it all,
they
all
can microwave it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, microwaves. Definitely.
I think that's what they prefer to do because,
yeah.
Again, what MBI learned was that these companies don't want to be depending on some Yahoo internet operation in Shutesbury. Even though we're much better, even though we're more reliable than Verizon and whatever.
But microwave links are independent of
exactly. And if they control everything, then they are responsible when it goes down, and they. So
that's probably what they're going to do.
Yeah, so I think it's unlikely we're going to make any money. I'm also not particularly worried yet, but I agree with Gail that we should keep our antenna.
Yeah,
out there.
Well, that's why that's why I brought it up.
Yeah. It's good to hear.
Great.
I don't remember if we sent this out to the whole list, but you guys know that on January Hills Road, Verizon has never put their copper back up.
Yeah, I saw it wasn't up the last time I looked. Yeah, yeah. So does that mean it just goes to someone who doesn't have service and they haven't bothered? There's been
Or they figured out how to come in from either end. I don't know, but there's a stretch there.
Are there
between-
no Verizon customers left?
That's a possibility as well. I don't know the
therefore
answer.
no complaints, and therefore they don't know their cable is down. Maybe.
Maybe.
Or don't care.
Clearly they don't care.
Well,
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty interesting.
yeah.
Well, I predict that Verizon is going to abandon their copper here in Shutesbury sometime in 2023 to 2024.
As
And
soon as
then
they're
every-
allowed to.
Yeah, as soon as they're allowed to, because they've gotten out of it in 27 other towns in Massachusetts. They have
Really?
told all,
Oh.
they've told folks who are using copper, sorry, Charlie, but you're going to have to you have to connect to our fiber system instead. And now that there is a fiber system in town that will service everybody, and that's going to be the case in many other towns across Western Massachusetts, and Verizon hates copper. It's a loss.
Sure.
They'll lose tons of money on it, and they just can't wait to get out of it. So my guess is,
Jim, these 27 towns in Massachusetts where Verizon has abandoned their copper is because they have FiOS in those.
Yeah.
Right.
or equivalent, but they've been able to do to back out of any copper connections whatsoever in 27 towns, and I think that list is growing all the time. Verizon,
There's a
But in
difference.
that case, when they request an exemption, they can say we are providing an alternative that's better.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a difference between abandoning your copper system and abandoning your service to a community.
Exactly. That's going to be a harder
Yeah,
bar for them.
there
to
may
get over.
be state regulations that require them to provide that to every town, to provide the service, if they're going to provide it at all.
Yeah.
I don't know, but.
But are they losing money like crazy? Absolutely, I'm sure they are.
they
right?
are. The maintenance of a copper system is just very expensive. And look what they did up in.
Not if you don't put it back up.
That's true too. But look what they did in New Hampshire. They sold it all to Fairpoint, and Fairpoint got totally screwed on the deal because it had been maintained so poorly that they went and turned around and sued Verizon for selling them a pig in a poke, and won the suit, as a matter of fact, too. So that just shows you how much Verizon just wants to get out of
Sure.
copper completely. And
Sure.
here in Shutesbury as well, I think it would apply.
What's our phone take rate right now?
I think it's still hovering around 60%.
60% of our customers.
60% of the 87% of residents that
Right.
took service.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it was-
still a fair number who's not. Some of those are probably, well, maybe not. I was gonna say some of those people might just not be having anything other than cellular.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's the likelihood.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's not that they're still keeping their Verizon copper line.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of curmudgeons who still are sticking with their copper because, God damn it,
Well, but
I
served me
can
for
think of
50
one-
years.
I can think of one person. We all know who that is. Or
Yeah.
Mr. Eric Stocker certainly knows who that is.
oh, okay. Some people don't. It's their only choice. But what was the figure that Verizon's lawyer gave in the DTC filing, that they lost what percentage of their customer
Oh.
base to us?
Well, yeah.
They didn't admit that they said that
They just cited our number. They just said,
Yeah, they cited our
they just said, like you took 87% of our customers, and
but they didn't really. They just used our number. Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
Well, that's a badge of honor.
We done good.
It's something. It was, I'll tell you, in that DTC reply that we did, it was very satisfying to write a line in there along something like, you complain about the fact that, we're a direct competitor, but that implies that you provide a service that actually is in competition with what we provide. Something along those lines. It was a satisfying sentence to write.
It sure
There is
was.
no contest, is there?
Yeah.
Don't forget, they could have done this. They could have built the network too. They didn't. They chose not to.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Which we pointed out to them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
we would
well,
have
good.
been thrilled to have your service, and you never followed through.
Not just that, the
I
state
really
courted.
miss those Verizon checks I have to write every month. Those are the good old days.
Yeah.
At first, they said we were too small even to do a survey in our town.
To do a survey.
Yeah, just to do a survey about
Yeah,
what the needs were.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Just dinner.
Yeah. All right. Let's go have dinner.
Okay.
Talk to y'all next month.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.